So I am now recording. Okay, today is January 25th, 2019. This is the first and the regularly scheduled meeting of ITSC 2309 at Collin College in beautiful Plano, Texas. And let's see. So this is database programming with SQL, or ITSE 2309. This class will be live streamed every Friday at 10 o'clock. And so you can join me. You can join us here. Those of you who are here, I don't remember. I don't see exactly. I don't have my participant list up, but I can see you if you're here. So that's the same thing as being here if you are. And otherwise, you'll be able to get the recorded lecture on YouTube. It'll be linked from Canvas, and I'll go into that bit. But I always record the lectures, and I always do it. So this allows me to have about 50 people in the class, and I do have 50, believe it or not, in this section. You can't see 50 here. People can come, and people will tend to come and go in the class. Sometimes people will be here, sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll be online. By the way, this attendance to the lecture, I didn't say in the lecture, attendance to the lecture is not optional. Meaning that if you don't come to the lecture, okay, that's fine. You don't have to come to the lecture. But you have to receive the lecture. There's several ways you can receive it. One is you can participate online. For example, if you have a headset of some type, and I do recommend a headset. You don't have to get one of these. I got this one for Christmas, by the way. This is my first lecture with it, where I'm not tied to a USB tether. I like it. But if you just have a microphone, your cell phone doesn't work very well. Although you can hear me on your cell phone, you can see my screen. I don't typically show you a picture of me talking. You don't care about that. So basically what you want to see is on the screen. And we're going to go to the syllabus here in just a minute. So as you can see, I can highlight things and point to things. I want to get a tablet where I can draw. That would be handy. So I guess I'll start off and introduce myself. My name is Dr. Smith. I've been doing this all day now. Good grief. I started teaching database in the 1980s at the University of Texas. I'm now retired and just teaching kind of part-time here at Collin College. I like Collin College pretty well. So I like the fact that they do a lot of the online stuff. It took me a long time to warm up to this online format, but if you do it right and you have the same expectations as you would in class, so there's no difference between the people who are physically seated here in this room and the people who are out there in internet land. There's no difference. You're going to get the same assignments. You're going to get the same lectures. If I say it in lecture, I said it, and you're responsible for it. Okay. Let's see. That said, I'm usually here in the mornings, on Friday mornings. I'm usually here by about 9:30, I think is the way it's going to work. I ride the DART train around from Denton, so I've got a pretty long commute to get here. That's okay. I can get a lot of work done on the train. I use that time effectively. But it does. I do spend quite a bit of time there. After class, when class is over, I'll probably be heading on out. I don't hang around afterwards. Certainly not on a Friday afternoon. The campus is closing down. I don't know, when do they close on Friday afternoon? They lock the place up about 4 or 5, somewhere in there. Early anyway. Okay, let's look at the syllabus. Now, the official course syllabus, we're going to be using heavily, we're going to be using Canvas. So Canvas is our main tool. Now, Canvas is not everything. You will need a textbook, and I'll talk about the textbook, and I'll wave a copy of it around and all that stuff. This is ITSC 2309, and our page, I can't get it all on the screen, but that's okay. And so we have our modules. Modules is where you will typically go. So there we have the orientations, the welcome letters. I think back at the home screen, there is a link to the syllabus. So the course syllabus is here. And so if you download that, before you print it though, let me just point out something. It is in Word. So here we go, the official course syllabus. And they, I don't know, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I always thought a course syllabus should fit on one page. And it should have just the facts, just the stuff that. But they came along and they decided that everybody wanted to put something else into the syllabus. So everybody else comes up with all of this stuff that we have to have, all of these student learning outcomes, also known as SLOs. And I'm sure that you just read all of this stuff and pore over it like it was, I don't know. You probably don't. So what I've done is I did, and you know, I don't call this, when it runs 7 or 8 pages, I don't call that a syllabus, I call that a student handbook. So I've made the real course syllabus at the beginning. So now if you're going to print something, page 1 of the syllabus is called the real course syllabus. This is what we really need to know, okay? And it tells us, using my name, Dr. Stephen Smith, I do not initiate drops for students. If you just stop attending class and disappear, that's fine. I mean, it's not fine. You disappeared. I will always have a few students that will do that. I mean, that's there's nothing I can do about it, so I've quit worrying about it. But I'm not the one that has to not initiate the drop. So don't, if you disappear, you'll get an F. It's not my job to drop you, and if you stop attending and you want to drop, now remember, you have so many drops that you have in your undergraduate career, and they do count them. So you know, sometimes it's important that you not drop classes, and except in extreme circumstances. Important dates. Okay, this is kind of important. My exercises and my turn-ins, my the projects that we will do have due dates. I put due dates on stuff. Typically speaking, on things like quizzes and stuff like that, they make me put that in there because it's an online class. Therefore, it has to have quizzes built into it every so often. I don't put due dates on them, just do them as we come through there. And the quizzes, you'll find those to be pretty easy. I let you take them multiple times, and they're busy work. The actual programming assignments are where I spend a lot more effort, and they're worth more. So when I give a programming assignment, my programming assignments will have a due date. My due dates are what I call soft, okay? I've tried this every kind of way, and students, I don't know whether I'm doing students any favors by saying a soft due date means that I don't impose a penalty if you run past the due date. Okay. I don't know whether I'm doing you any favors or not, but I've tried it every possible way. I've tried the old hammer in my hand hitting you over the head and being punitive. It didn't work. It didn't, you know, I just killed everybody's grandmother. Yeah, terrible. Let the old lady enjoy her geriatric years. You don't have to kill her. I've tried a a couple of years, I tried a contract. I said, okay, what you want, A or B? A says you turn it in when you're ready. Yeah, no, contract A says if you turn it in on time, you get 5 points extra. Whatever that means. I mean, if it's extra for everybody, it's hardly. You get a little inflation there. But if you're late, I take points away from you. So that's option A. Option B says, there's none of that stuff. You turn it in when you get it done. I'll grade it. You're not in high school. I'm not your parent. What do you think people would choose? Hey, what do you think?
I think most people would choose B.
Really? Yeah. People overwhelmingly choose A. Yeah, overwhelmingly. Out of a class of 50 or 60 people, I only have 1 or 2 that will choose B. It doesn't change their behavior any. Is the thing. I mean, they still don't turn it in on time. And they still give me these excuses about why I shouldn't penalize them. So I have soft due dates. So you don't need to worry. Worry about them, because the due dates are meant to tell you when the stuff is, when you're on time. So if you're meeting the due date, you're on schedule. If you're a day past the due date, you're still on schedule, right? If you got a busy day today, and man, I just can't get to it today, I'll get to it tonight, but it's going to be past the due date. I'm over it. Okay, that's the nice thing about using Canvas. The only reason that we didn't want to take late papers was we had to keep track of them. So when papers come trickling in all the time, that's real bad to keep track of it. With Canvas, I don't have to worry about it. It just goes into your box, and I grade it when I get to it. Other thing about Canvas is I have my Canvas set such that if you're missing an assignment, that assignment does not count as 0, so be aware of that. So check and make sure you got everything turned in. If you're missing if an assignment is missing, it doesn't count as 0. The reason I do that is that as soon as the assignment is late, it goes to 0. And then I get panicked students. Hey, when are you going to grade my assignment? Someday. Okay, enough of that. I have soft due dates. Soft due dates means that it doesn't mean that there isn't a deadline. There is a deadline. People who get behind in this class typically don't complete it. That's just the way it goes. It is a programming class. It is a sophomore level programming class, so it's a 2000 level class. There is one that comes after it, by the way. This is the first class of 2 SQL programming classes. So we have SQL. This is pure SQL. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. And then we have advanced SQL programming, which is the next one. And I believe we're going to start offering the advanced every semester now, because we're starting to get enough students coming through the pipeline to where we can. Used to be we didn't offer it except like every 2 years or something, but I think we're going to start offering it every semester. And that is ITSE 2347. And it's, as long as I'm going to teach it, I use the same book, by the way. Let me finish this. What was I doing here? Okay, important dates. The cutoff date, Friday, May 10th. If it's not in by then, that's the end of the semester. No late assignments after the cutoff. I'll remind you when that's coming up. That's in May. Spring census date is February 4th. By this day, I must have the first assignment, or the registrar drops you for non-attendance. Since this is an online class, you have to do something. You have to turn something in by February 4th. Got the date? Right? Turn it in. Hello, hey, what is your name? What is your quest? What is your favorite color? Some of those things are just about that easy. Some of them you just copy something and put it in the Dropbox, and you get a point or 2 or whatever it is. But you got to do it, because if you don't have it, then I don't have an artifact that I can say you were here. So as I go down through my roster, I have to check off each student. Have you turned in something? Last day to withdraw, I recommend you don't, is March 22nd. Canvas gradebook does not count late assignments as 0. I record my lectures. There's my meeting ID. You will need that to get to the lectures. Hi, welcome. 10 a.m. each Friday. Course announcements daily. Check the course announcements daily from Canvas. Course announcements are session grades. Where are they? There's the our I don't I typically won't put the inbox up in class, so I don't want to broadcast it. If you have a message for me that, because you saw I just accidentally clicked on that inbox, and sometimes I have it up, what I will never do is click on email in here. So if your message is of a confidential nature, then you may use the school's email, the swsmith@collin.edu. If it's just a routine class, what was the assignment on such and such a day, or where can I find something, then use the Canvas messaging. Under the announcements, right, check your announcements daily. Let me see, I'll create, problem with it is I have 2 sections, so if I send an announcement, I have to send it to 2 sections. I can't just send one to everybody. I'll probably create an announcement this morning that says, hello, and so you'll see an announcement. Back to the syllabus, let me check and see. Here is the textbook. Okay, the textbook looks like, anybody got one? Okay, they're not real expensive. Here's mine. Okay, now if you happen to be at Half Price Books and you find one that says, instead of 2016, it says 2012 on it, you can use that one. There's not enough difference in them to, in my opinion, that shouldn't have been an entirely different edition of the textbook, because it's just, all they did was change a couple of the pages and right at the beginning, and instead of 2012, 2016, the SQL is exactly the same. So you can use that textbook if you see it. There's the final day when okay, online classes, do not miss the final. I try to allow you a big enough time window to take it. Do not miss it. Questions? And let's see. Anybody online that can ask a question? I see a couple of people. Okay, Brad Johnson, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So looking at the quizzes and the submissions, is this going to be like a multiple choice online quiz, or is it going to be submitting the actual code?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the. I haven't got this set to where when somebody speaks, they're speaking out into the room. I'm going to try to fix that in just a moment. It's on my headset right now. A person has asked, are the quizzes multiple choice? You can go look at a quiz if you want to. They're let me see if I can. Let's see, I'm going to go to the modules. Oh, for example, I can find create table. There's a quiz. Okay, there should be a quiz. There's a quiz on number 5, I'm sure. Chapter 3 quiz. It was 15 points, and if you were to take the quiz, question 1, the blank clause of the select statement, and then you type something in there. So I think there's 10 questions or something like that. And so some of them are short answers, some of them are multiple choice. And if you get it wrong, it lets you take it again. Okay. So,
You mean you get a second try at each of the questions?
no, you have to try the whole quiz. If you don't like the grade you got, you get a second try at the quiz.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't make much sense, and I think it scrambles the questions, but it doesn't. It's not a big deal. They don't have a whole lot of weight, and so did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Naomi, is that right?
Yes, hi.
Did you have a question?
Oh, no, thanks.
Okay, you may mute your microphone if you want to. I can go ahead and mute it. Usually I will turn the microphones off because, Mommy, you know, and you get kids screaming and dogs barking in my ears and everything, which is one of the good things about this format is that you don't have to be here. You don't have to drive into campus. Okay, so, well, I've read you the syllabus. And I'm not going to read the whole 7-page one to you. You can go read it. Say, praise the Lord. You don't really even need to print it. It'll be there for you if you need to read it for anything. And so with that said, I'm going to begin with SQL. What is SQL? What is this thing that we're studying here? SQL is an ancient programming language. As programming languages go, it is probably, I guess, the oldest one that is still in common use. So SQL itself is, let me see if I can find a, SQL allows us to work with a database. How many of you have used a database before? Okay, I see most of the class here. And I'm going to guess that that's, if I can keep my headset on, I'm going to guess that that's Access. Is that right? Okay. Others? Oracle users? SQL Server? Others? But
I use SQL and sounds crazy with COBOL.
SQL and COBOL together. Mm-hmm. Well, SQL we're going to see SQL in the next class. We integrate SQL and Visual Basic. We're not going to do that in this class. This class is going to be just plain SQL. Now we're going to download SQL Server, and I want to go ahead and go through the installation process with you now. So we download SQL Server, and I believe you have it for your I sent you a link where you can download it. The bad part about it, you have to get that loaded. I cannot touch your computer. Okay, Dr. Smith, what's the matter with my computer? I don't know. The problem with it is you have very personal stuff on that computer, and I can't touch the computer any more than I can come in your house and fix your stove. I mean, that's your home, and if I find a flash drive around, I cannot plug it in and look at the content of it. If your name isn't on the outside of it, I have no way of knowing to whom it belongs. I'm not allowed to look. So let's go. Let's see. What?
I have Windows 7.
Windows 7. If you have Windows 7, you will have to download Server 2012. 2012. There is a. Did I send you the link? Okay, I've sent the link out to a few people. Basically, I just Google download Windows SQL Server 2012, and you'll get the download page. You have to know whether you have a 32-bit or a 64-bit processor. You probably have a 64-bit, but I don't know that. And then you do the same install steps. There's no real difference in them. But if you have Windows 7, you have to install Microsoft SQL Server 2012. The rest of us get to choose between 2016 or 2017. There is not a whole lot of difference. I think I would probably tend to stick with 2016 for right now until 2019 will probably come out in a minute. They do several changes, dust-offs, just to make you download a new system. There's nothing wrong with staying with 2016 if that's what you have. Okay. And on your desktop, there should be a folder that says SQL Server Spring 2019. You may copy this folder, you may make a copy and take it home. If you have Windows 7, don't bother, it has to be 2012. If you copy the folder, take it home, fine, then you don't have to download it. This is, I believe this is 2017 in here. Open it. This one has an extra file, this little box thing that's just a hook that downloads the rest of it. There's the one that we want, SQL EXP, SQL Express, XPR, ADV Advanced, means it's everything. It's the full meal deal, and it's half a gig. Okay, I'm going to double click it. By the way, do not log in to this room if you're going to be doing installs. If you log in as your username, log into the domain, in other words, that means that you're no longer the supervisor on this room. They're the administrator. Yeah. If you log in on these machines with your password, log into the domain, then you are no longer an administrator. Okay, well, I executed it. Now what's going on? Okay, please wait. And there's going to be a lot of stuff here that we're just going to be watching it go. I would like for you to go ahead and do the install, please, on these computers. And we'll install on those on the back row too. You may have a seat. Okay. I'll get you caught up on the install process. It's pretty simple here. Good grief, let's see. Security online release notes. Well, I wasn't expecting, okay, install. Installation. Okay, we want to go to installation. Now planning tells us we can go step through there and we can troubleshoot things. If I go down to the installation, I'm going to the next one. I'm going to install a new standalone installation. I don't believe they have installed them in here. I told them not to. They don't always do what I say. My students will do what I say. The techs don't. So we want a new standalone. And in a minute, I'm going to come out of it as soon as it checks its rules. Restart the computer. Don't restart the computer. Well, anybody else getting that restart computer?
I have. Ah, I see why.
Why?
When does the update? Do I see?
No, it's an update issue.
Yeah, when does the update?
It's updating now.
Or it did the update and it's asking for a schedule restart.
No, okay. Well, I'm not going to restart. Gee, if I restart,
Then yeah,
let's see if I
restart.
what's that? Say again?
Then you have to get the tech view back in here. to log on.
Well, it'll log back in itself without the tech people. But if I restart, I'm going to lose the
Administrative.
I'll lose my recording and everything of that. So I really don't want to do that. Let me see if I can get around it.
I do these things all the time. There's
No way around it, huh? Okay. Well, in that case, I'll have to I'll have to go through it again. I'm not going to do it right now because if I do it, I'll lose my Zoom session and it'll be a big mess. So I don't want to restart my computer. If you want to restart yours, go ahead. I have sent out a, let's see, if we go to the modules, I want to show you this. Down at the very bottom of the module, so here's install the server software. There's some instructions on here that we won't necessarily follow exactly. If you do follow them, it won't hurt anything. I've made a couple of changes to it. So let's see, software setup. Down at the very last module, under the recorded lectures, is a says software setup. If you click that, that will take you to the install instructions. It's got a part 1 and a part 2, and these are YouTube videos. Go ahead.
Part 2 doesn't have sound.
Part 2 doesn't have sound.
It goes away in YouTube.
Anybody else have that same issue? Okay, I will re-record part 2 then to give it sound.
I got SQL on my desktop, laptop now, and desktop.
The what now?
I got SQL on both laptop and desktop.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not that worried about not having sound.
The directions online are pretty accurate.
Yeah, it should be there. We want to. I want you to create a database called ScratchDB so that we name our database that we're using for just general purpose knocking around. I want it named the same. If everybody picks their own name, then when you send me the file, it won't run because until I change that name. Okay, I will double. So part 2 does not have sound. Okay, I'll get that fixed today. So this is set up. If you are installing 2012, it is roughly the same thing. Roughly the
Go
same.
ahead and restart these machines.
You can restart yours. I'm not going to restart mine.
It might take a while because I think this is a major update.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Okay, we'll have to go ahead and I don't know whether these, I don't think these have deep freeze on them. They better not have deep freeze on them. I don't see it. Okay, let me talk a little bit about SQL. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to restart my machine before I can show you very much about what's going on with SQL. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait. I'm going to say, okay, get the textbook, get your software installed, particularly at home. And then we're going to start next time hot and heavy. SQL might mean simple query language. It might mean structured query language. You'll hear it called SQL. You will hear it called SQL. They're talking about the same thing. There was a programming language that's name was SQL as opposed to SQL, but it's gone the way of the dodo bird. SQL has been around since the 1960s. The only language that has been around even as close as the SQL language is the C programming language, or now we call it C++, and it has evolved into C#, which is, by the way, a different animal completely than C. C++ and C are pretty close together, but C# is wildly different.
C# is more is built on C++,
Well,
but
yeah.
it's a totally different language.
If I take a C program, it will run in C++. but it is not so that it will run in C#. So SQL itself is kind of like the kernel, the centerpiece. SQL, in theory, is a universal language of database. In theory, it's the universal language of database. In theory, it is the same. In theory, I should be able to pick up any SQL program, drop it into any database, and it will run, including Access, by the way, and it will run. That is the theory. Now, the theory doesn't always hold. In fact, the theory frequently does not hold. And we're going to find that we're going to have to tweak our database a little bit, particularly there'll be a lot of things that will be proprietary to it. This class, this course, will focus on pure SQL. Those things that are not pure SQL that we have to do because we're using SQL Server, I will try to point these out to you. And I will say, this little piece will change when you move to a different platform. It'll be slightly different. And yeah, that's true. There's some of them, quite a few of them actually. But in theory, SQL is SQL. I should be able to pick up any exercise that I do in SQL Server and move over, drop it into Oracle, and it should run just fine. In theory. It doesn't always happen. In fact, I've never seen a SQL program of any complexity at all that I didn't have to tweak quite a bit to get it to move between platforms. But that's the theory. So we're going to try to do it that way. In theory, no. In reality, there is. And it's just all cars are supposed to be the same. They're supposed to drive the same. A car is supposed to be a car, and you'll find that the brake is always on the left, and on the right is the accelerator, and clutch is at the far left, and all that. And yeah, but in reality, there's differences, and there's differences that are important, like where is the spare tire? Okay, if all cars are the same, the spare tire should be in the same place, and it just isn't. How do you turn on the windshield wipers? I guess that has fairly well standardized. But if you move from one make of a car to another, how you turn on the wipers will be different. How you turn on the headlights is different. Now the important things like the steering wheel, if you turn it this way, it goes to the right. If you turn it that way, it goes to the left. That kind of stuff tends to be the same. And so you'll find that SQL is like that. In theory, it should all be the same, but it isn't. So I'm going to try to highlight those things where I'm saying this isn't standard SQL. I'm going to be skipping over things in the textbook and pointing to them and saying, hey, you can read that. It's really cool, but it applies only to SQL Server. Therefore, I'm not going to cover it in detail. Okay, just because I don't want to spend our time covering stuff that isn't SQL. And let's see, I put in a plug for the next class. The next class is where we step out into a bit bigger world. So SQL itself, you're going to find, does not have any variables. There are no variables in SQL. What? No variables? There's no if-then-else logic in SQL. What? No if-then-else. There is no looping. Well, how do I write an infinite loop in SQL? Well, you can't. Well, there's looping, of course, but you don't have control over it. And then in the next class, we step outside of that and we find, hey, look, we do have all of that stuff. So don't despair. If you really want to do your while loops and your if-then-else logic, you'll get there. Right now, we're studying the SQL part. So I usually draw this Venn diagram on the board, and one of these days I'll get a tablet, and the Venn diagram looks like a fried egg. And I say the yolk is like SQL, and then around that is wrapped this idea of this other programming language. And that's what we're going to study in the next class. But we're not in the next class yet. So first we're going to do just SQL. Well, gee, I really need to go ahead and restart and get us installed. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to end the recording and I'm going to restart. Now, for those of you who are, with me, I got a bunch of people online. You're about to get disconnected when I restart. So I'm going to restart and then I'm going to go through the process of installation. But you don't really, it's not real important that you follow every step that I do because you're working on your own computer. So I've been told that the second link, part 2, I didn't have my sound turned on. It's awfully easy to lose sound on these things, by the way. There's a chat. Somebody has sent me a chat. Can a person who is enrolled in the face-to-face section take the quiz and the finals online? And by the way, don't assume privacy in the chat because I might come on. And the answer is yes. So yes, you will be able to take the tests online. So everything in this course is designed to have a face-to-face component, to be face-to-face-able, and to also be online. There is no difference. So if you're here, you're an online student, but if you want to be an online student, you just became an online student. If you want to become a face-to-face student, subject to seats available, and I see the room's getting pretty full, subject to seats available. If you bring your laptop, and we'll pull up a chair for you someplace, anybody may come to class. Anybody may be online. All of the assignments, all of the tests will be offered in both ways. I usually do the tests online.
Do you have any way to gauge participation outside of submitting assignments?
Well, I'll see that I see how many pages you've accessed. I see that you've accessed my lecture. Submitting assignments is the way. How will I gauge your participation? How do I know you're not just sitting there blankly staring at me? Here, so I do that through the assignments. So the answer is no, I don't. I have about, in this section that's now meeting, I have about 50 students. So I'm pretty well busy in here. Okay. By the way, those of you who are, if you don't have a microphone, there is a chat tool. And if I forget to turn on or lose my audio, I need you to start sending chats and say, hey, no sound, because it's quite possible that I will forget to turn on the audio. I have done that. Obviously I did that here, and apparently I forgot to turn on the audio for this one, or lost it. When I had to restart, there was a restart I had to do there. So I'll get that up and running, re-recorded. And let's see, so I'm about to, it's 45, we will typically take a break now anyway. What I'm going to do is, I don't know whether I'll turn on the recording when I come back or not. I'm going to do a restart, and normally what I do is just pause the recording. But if I restart, everything turns into a pumpkin, so I have to end the meeting. And that means I'm about to cut you guys off. Comments, anybody? I believe you can speak. Hey, Brad, you there? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
here.
I just wanted to see, did you unmute yourself or did you just talk?
I unmuted myself.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you could. Notice that everybody's got a little microphone icon, and there's a slash through it if you're muted. Most of the time I'll just hit mute all, and that turns everybody off. And if you don't want to talk, you can turn yourself back on. So I'm about to end the meeting. Is everybody happy with that idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nope, I think you got one hand raised.
Where? Oh, okay. Mr. or Ms. Williams. Unmute. Apparently, Mr. Williams, Nick Williams, I see a right. You'll have to go to chat. I get there. We go. I'm trying to unmute. Do you have a speaker? I don't know how you'd answer that. Check in your control panel, and let's see. What time would you like for us to return? I'm going to. I'll turn it on as soon as my computer restarts. My computer might be down for 15 or 20 minutes. You do not have to. If you are online, you do not have to return. You do not have to go through the setup. You have it recorded. So I'm just going to take us through the setup here. So you don't have to return today. Get your books, and I'll see you on well, I'll see you next Friday, and I will. If I have anything to do further, I will do a recording and post the recording. So I'll probably get you started on the first lesson. So check the recordings about Monday, and I'll hope to have another lead in to the first lecture, which will be next Friday. Okay?
Thanks, Dr. Smith. Have a good weekend.
And you. And then I got to figure out how to make this where if somebody speaks,